Epic Games have responded to the new power level system and all the bugs that came along with it. So let's get in there and see what they've got to say. Hello, hello! I'm CammyG, and welcome back to our Fortnite Save the World videos. Yes, Epic Games themselves have actually responded on Reddit to the new power level system and all the bugs that have come with it, because my god, there's been a lot of them, and this is a huge fundamental change to the game. So it's really nice to see that they are responding to this. They are, trying to get ahead of it, of the issues, and I don't remember the last time Epic have properly addressed a big change like this. Like, usually when a change comes in that's, a bit smaller or, patches and stuff, they don't really address them too much. So it's clear to see they've been monitoring it and see how bad the backlash has been to this change. So yes, the first post we have is just basically, talking about the change, and that they've noticed that there's been a lot of backlash to it, there's been some bugs, and they wanted to basically discuss what's intentional about the change and what is a side effect / bug. So this comes from Jason, who is an Epic senior systems designer at Epic Games. So, they have someone actually genuinely working on this, replying to this. But they start with the known bugs. So the first one they talk about is the venture one. So basically, if you leveled up in ventures before the update, you will have lost power level. If you didn't play it basically before, you're unaffected, but it means you can only get up to a maximum of a 108 zone, and your power level is just lower than it should have been. The reason is because they basically increase how much power level or how much, FORT stats you get for each venture level, but they actually didn't take into account that people had already gained the old amount. So you basically have got like 2/3 of the level you should have post change. So when they finally fix this in next week's update, which I believe should be coming either Tuesday or Thursday next week, I think 11th of December was the date that was quoted. When that change comes, your power level should increase. Have you been playing benches, pretty a lot this season, basically. So that is, that's something we were aware of. It's something we've called out in our videos, and yeah, it's the work is complete and ready to go. The next bug is the one where if you play a mission, sometimes your power level can go down. So the reason they've stated is if you go into a lower power level mission, because they cap the power level. So if you go into Stonewood as a Twine player, for example, even before this update, your power level will be capped at like 17 or something. I can't remember the exact number, but effectively, if that happens, when you come out of the mission, it doesn't get increased back up. So that's basically what's happening. So depending on how far down you go, whether you're going to Plankton for a V-Bucks mission or something, or to help a friend, or whatever it might be, when you come out, your power level could be lower. All you have to do to fix this is refresh your power level. So you can do that by basically changing any part of the new power level system. So that could include your survivor squads, your hero loadout, or your weapons. So you can put some 144s in storage if you only have a few of them, take them back out, and or any weapon, basically. Anything that's going to change your power level. So whether you can use a higher or lower hero in a squad, or maybe a hero loadout that has a higher or lower level. Same with weapons and same with survivors. If you unslot a survivor and slot it back in, that should fix it, really, because that's going to refresh your power level. But this is also being fixed, or has been fixed, I should say, and will be in that next update as well, so on the 11th of December. If you are enjoying the video so far, by the way, please do subscribe if you haven't already. And also, there's the hype feature. If you've not used that before, it helps smaller creators like me out. If you like the video, it'll send it out to more people, and they might like it. So cheers, and yeah, get back to it. Now, those are the bugs they've called out. I don't know if there's any more. I haven't seen any more. Those seem to be the main two. And I think there were some smaller bugs, excuse me, when the thing first came out, but I think they've just basically fixed themselves. But now they're talking about the actual change itself. So, talking about the overall change, and they say that the core purpose of the power rating is to give players a simplified view of how powerful they are. I mean, personally, I think it's more complex, but okay. And to help understand which difficulty levels will provide you with a balanced and fun experience. So the idea was always that the rating of your weapons, heroes, and survivors / those fort stats would roughly match each other, and in turn match the rating of the mission. So they said previously the power rating only affected the fort stats, which, yeah, that's how it used to be, which means two players of the same power level might actually be at different levels, depending on what heroes and weapons they have, which is kind of true. You know, they kind of give that example, but was that really happening? If people have a power level of 100, they're gonna be in Twine. I don't think someone in Twine's gonna be using a power level 28 weapon. I mean, it kind of sure aligns them a bit more, but I don't know if I agree with that completely. But yeah, I mean, okay. They said there was no method to expose the differences without digging into the ratings of the individual items, and no indication that improving the level of your heroes and weapons actually increased your power in combat, apart from the fact that you could see the power of your heroes and weapons were higher. So I don't know, it was pretty clear before, and it's less clear now, because before you could see the individual elements more clearly. You know, your fort stats were entirely encapsulated by your power level. Now it's not, which means just looking at your power level, you have no idea what your fort stats are anymore, because it completely depends on what weapons and heroes you have. So again, I disagree with this. I think it's less transparent and more complex now. I don't know if the reason they're doing this makes sense to me. Like, it really doesn't, because yeah, if you have two people at power level 100, but one of them's got 130 heroes and the other one's got level 70 heroes, they're going to have different fort stats, which means they're going to do very differently in the same mission, but they look the same power level. I really don't agree with that. It says the new rating calculation encapsulates more of the things that contribute to damage, health, and shields, making it more accurate estimate of your combat power in mission. I mean, yes, it does overall give a better indication of an average of your damage, health, and shields. But again, it's sort of watering down the three. So if you have a really high damage and low health and shield, you could be the same power level as someone who has really high health and shield but low damage. They're not going to perform the same in a mission. Sure, one's going to stay alive longer, but the other one's going to be doing all the damage. You know, I don't know. Again, I don't agree with that, personally, but whatever. Fort stats go through the calculation similar to before, just different because you have higher fort stats due to not, relying on teammates anymore. The rating of all your heroes are averaged together with the commander slot weighted more than the support slots. We know that is a 70% split for the commander, and then 30%, so 6% each for the support slots, which they don't even outline here, the individual percentages, which I find very strange that they can't share that, given we've already figured it out. Very strange that they don't just give us that, but okay. We did cover this in the power level video, by the way, and in the comments there. Then the ratings of the 3 best weapons in your backpack to get an estimate of what you might have readily available in your quick bar during combat. Again, I think that should be schematics, not backpack items. Sure, it's what you'll have when you very first get into a match for that first second. You can very easily craft weapons after that. I think it should be on schematics, not weapons, because people in Stormwood could have 144 weapons and inflate their power level. Shouldn't work like that, but okay, they know better, surely. The 3 ratings are then averaged together, weighted to roughly match their contributions to your combat stats. So large contributions from fort stats and then less from the hero and weapons. I do agree with that weighting, although again, they don't tell us what the weighting is, but I agree the fort stats should be a far higher proportion of that. Now, they go over the downsides here. So reading through some comments over the past few days, it's clear we underestimated the importance of secondary purpose that the rating area served, which is representing your fort stats and completing your collection of survivors. I don't really care about the survivors too much, but again, it was a one-to-one pretty much representation of your fort stats, and now it isn't. They say this change unfortunately puts that max rating further out of reach, because it now requires supercharging heroes and weapons, and you get far less of those in ventures than you do survivor superchargers, which they don't say here, but we're going to call out. The other problem, made worse by the bugs mentioned above, is that changing out hero weapons causes the ratings to flex more than it used to, making it more likely for the rating to go down and for you to potentially lose access to content that you've had access to before. And this can happen in missions. I don't know if people would get kicked. I'm pretty sure someone said they had, but if all your top weapons broke, or if you only had 3 weapons that won 44 and they all broke, and you then went below the power level required for the mission, would you just get kicked, or like what would happen? But yeah, they say it'll become less of an issue once the bugs are addressed, but we'll keep an eye on it regardless. And they say also note if you swap to a lower level hero, and your rating goes down, that doesn't reduce your fort stats, which is true. Your fort stats do not change depending on your hero weapons. It's just heroes will be, you know, your health, shield, and ability damage a little bit, and then your weapons will just be obviously how much damage that weapon's going to do. They say thank you for all the patience as we nail these bugs down. We're watching the feedback, the bug reports, and any other concerns, and we'll monitor the impact of the rating changes so they can address significant issues with the new system as they come up, which we've definitely had a lot so far. It sounds like they are, you know, dead set on keeping the system, but just wanting to adjust it / you know, fix the bugs, of course, and use it going forward and maybe tweak it a little bit to make it maybe more transparent potentially in the future. But overall, yeah, it's here to stay, I think. And even though we might not agree with it, maybe you guys do agree with that, I'm not sure. But yeah, even if we don't agree with it, it is here to stay, and we best get used to it, I suppose. So that's why we've got videos explaining it, because obviously we need to understand how this thing works, even if they can't be bothered to tell us. Although they do, you know, roughly go over it in this post. But yeah, that's that, I guess. And then on top of that, we also have another response where someone asked about survivor bonuses. Because survivor bonuses don't really get much of an effective increase unless it's trap durability, it's basically been called out because there's no reason to do anything other than trap durability, basically. If you want the reason for that, I can try briefly explain, but your trap durability is probably around about 200%, maybe not even that, you know, when you're end game. And so your bonuses of plus 6% or whatever it is from your survivor squads will have an impact. So it'll go from 200 to 206%. That's quite a big increase, you know, percentage wise. That's like a 3% increase. Whereas with something like range damage, your range damage is already at like 3000%. We can even look at our stats in here. If we go down to, where's range damage? I can't actually see it. I don't know if they've changed what shows in this view, but I don't see offense here, which is very weird. So we can't really cover that one, but you have stuff like hero ability damage and trap damage there. You can see this account's not even maxed, like this is like 2/3 of the way up, if that, and they're at like, you know, 2000, 3000%. So when you get a bonus of 5% to trap damage, or I think it's 8% actually for trap damage, or 5% to range damage, or whatever it might be, those are now tiny in comparison, because you're going from 3000% to 3005%, which overall is less than a percent increase. Like, that is absolutely tiny. So that's why trap durability is the way to go. But they say no changes are currently being worked on for that, but they are definitely on our list of systems that need improvement. Now, I don't know how long they've been on that list for improvement, whether it's been on there since 5 years ago, or if it's only just gone on the list because they're starting to look at the game again. But that to me indicates that they do have a lot of future plans for the game. And now that they've started making a lot of changes, fundamental changes to the game, I think we can expect to see a lot of reworking on, you know, unbalanced things, or like this, where, you know, stuff's not actually valid as a choice, such as trap damage, range damage. You know, it doesn't really make sense to choose those. Things like that, where it wasn't really designed fully well. I think we will start to see those come into play. And, you know, they're clearly wanting to work on them. And I have no idea why we're now suddenly getting so much attention into Save the World. Maybe it's because Battle Royale's dropping off a bit and they're sort of having a plan B, trying to get Save the World into a place that they can, you know, make a bit more money from. I'm not sure. But either way, I think we can expect to see a lot more for Save the World coming up in the short future. So yes, I'm very excited. What do you guys think? Do you think we're going to see stuff real soon? Do you think, I mean, it's probably going to be quite a bit before we get some really big changes, but we have also just had Power Level absolutely refreshed, so I wouldn't cross it off entirely. But yes, thank you so much for watching the video as usual. Thank you so much for making it through. If you got this far, let me know in the comments. If you made it to the end, just pop a comment saying hello, CammyG, and we'll see how many people made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.